Hello and welcome out to the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi.
And I'm Chris Yi.
And today we are going to be reviewing Knitting Circle, a calico game.
Don't you hate it when you're about to work with your yarn, in my case never, and a cat just comes up and lies down in the middle of it? In my case, never.
Very cute like, yeah. All right, so this game is by Emily Vincent, and this is a flat-out AEG game.
In the Calico extended universe.
Yeah, that's what we needed more of.
Yeah, nothing like Calico, actually. Wendy's going to show you how this one plays, then we'll go ahead and give you our thoughts.
Knitting Circle takes place across 6 rounds represented by these 6 pieces of yarn over here in the middle. And players are going to be collecting knitting tiles from this rondelle using their cats, and then they're going to be using them to actually knit different patterns over here, and you're going to be collecting more of these throughout the game. So let's talk about the first phase of the round, which is the rondelle. So players can move their cat up to 2 spaces away, and then they will collect a token. If for some reason those 2 spaces involve another cat or an empty space, they can go ahead and skip over those, and then they will collect one of these knit tokens. Yarn tokens. Now, if you notice, some of these have the little V's, and some of them have like, I don't know, a smoother side. So this is considered the knit side, and this is considered the purl side. And even on the setup board over here, it shows how you set them up. You have to keep the yarn tile the way that it is when you grab it. So this is going to be on the knit side. It's the first one I grab. I go ahead and I place it over here. Now we continue one at a time going around the rondelle until everybody has sufficient yarn for what they need. And I'm not even really looking over here. I'm just grabbing stuff. Let's say we do that, and then sure, why not? Let's get a purple. Okay. Now that wasn't a real drafting phase. However, I'm going to come over here and do a real crafting phase. So when you knit something, you have to knit from one side to the other. You can't just, add stuff in the middle. So starting from the top, these little knitting needles, we're going to work our way down. Now to be able to finish this garment, we only have to reach the end of this light portion, and it will be worth whatever highest number we've reached. If we want to fully complete the garment, though, we can choose to do that by knitting all the way to the bottom. If you notice, the patterns also show here the purl versus the knit. You have to match that, and then you also have to be able to complete a pattern, otherwise you'll get negative points. Now, when we're choosing how to knit our pattern as well, we have these buttons over here, and these are just extra points that we can get when we finish the garment if we happen to meet these objectives. So right now this is a mitten, so I'm completing this mitten button once this is done. I also am either going to look to do either a color block pattern or a symmetrical pattern if possible, so I can get those points. And then if I happen to use these colors, I can also add those buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and knit over here, and I'm going to do the color block pattern, which basically means chunks of 2 of each color. Now here's the deal. The first spot on my board happens to be purl, so I'm going to go ahead and add this purple purl, and then I'm going to take this one from my knitting basket. Now the benefit of the knitting basket is that it can be on either side, whereas the ones on the top up here have to stay on the correct, or the side that you get them. So this one luckily is on the side I want, so that's fine. And then I need a purl yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this one over because it's in my basket, and that's going to allow me to gain a tile from the bag. So that's pretty nifty. So I'll go ahead and do that, and you know what? I will gain a green since I have 1 green up there. Then I'm going to finish the pattern by adding my other color block, and then I'm going to score it. So I'm going to complete this garment, and I'm going to do that by saying, yes, it has this button here, and it has the color block. And then this one is now done. So it's going to stay there till the end of the game, showing that it's completed because I've removed my knitting needles. And then at the end game, we're going to score. Now it also has a bottom scoring over here, which says that I get 1 point for every full garment, which means one that's completed all the way to the bottom instead of just the minimum requirement. So luckily this one right now is going to be worth 3-4 points, and then hopefully I can increase that throughout the game. Now another thing I can do during this crafting phase is I can choose to discard a knitted tile for the matching pattern type. For example, this green one right here, and I get to draw 2, pick one, and then whichever one I don't want, I put on the bottom. I'm going to say type with 2+, which means that I have at least 2 of that garment completed by the end of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there, put this back, and then it can be the end of the round because I've completed all that I want to complete right now. If I have anything left over up here, I can store up to 2 things in my basket. I can also choose to discard any one of these tokens that I might want, and then I will refill them all at the end of the round, so they don't refill immediately. And you know what? I'm not working on hats right now. I'm going to go ahead and discard that. Now I refill, and I'm going to hope that I get maybe one of these sweaters. Nope, I got a mitten. Well, that's fine. I got a new pattern, which is a second symmetrical. Then I'm going to pass that first player token to someone else, and then we refill the rondelle. It's not very empty right now, but you'd go ahead and refill that. And then the person who has the first player token is going to choose one of these colors in the middle to show that this is the end of the round. And they're going to say, you know, let's put a pink over here on its pearl side, and then the next round will begin. Couple last things I want to point out. This Paw Paw token you can spend at any time on your turn, or you can save up to 3. You can spend them and then you can dig through the bag and find any particular tile that you want. And then we also have these negative tokens. So basically, if you haven't met one of these 4 patterns on the bottom, it's just an ugly sweater or it's an ugly knitted item. So it will lose 3 points at the end of the game. So you can still get points from it. It's just a little bit negative if you don't meet a pattern. Oh, and one additional last thing that I wanted to mention is there are these optional advanced mode cards, and these are basically like first come, first serve scoring. So anybody can score them, but the first person to get it gets an extra one of those Paw Paw tokens. And then just at the end of the game, they're worth points. And so they're just a handful of objectives that stay out during the game that you can work towards. There you go. That's briefly how you play Knitting Circle, a calico game. All right, so starting off with components, I think everything is fine and dandy the way it is. I mean, the chips work, the pull-out bag works. Like, it's all good enough. The cards are a little thin, but I don't think they need to be big fancy things. You're not shuffling them. You're not holding them in your hand.
Yeah, no, and I like the different length cards. I like the fact that the long johns are really long. Like, and that makes sense if you're going to knit something that covers half your body. That's bigger than a mitten. Yeah. So I think that part is, I think that's pretty clever. I think it's pretty distinguishable to tell when an item is done, or you can do the full length for the bonus points of that. Little touches like that I think are well done. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the iconography, all that kind of stuff is pretty clear, except for the knitting versus the purl can be a little bit difficult texture-wise. I think it's mostly there because you can see the little squiggles versus the not little squiggles, but if you have trouble seeing, I could see that being a little bit of a difficulty.
Or when you're resetting the board at the end of the round, you're putting the new ones out, and someone has to come behind you like, oh, this one's flipped. Whoops, this one flipped over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actual gameplay, I like the 2 little sections. I like that it has that rondelle, grab all the yarn that you want, and then actually sit down and work, because it's very much like going to the craft store and buy, except you can't buy too much yarn. And I think most people that knit buy way too much yarn, and then they sit down and craft a little bit. This is like backwards.
That's true.
You get way less yarn than you want, and then you go to knit and you're like, oh, I can't finish my socks.
I wish I owned enough board games to play. Darn.
Exactly.
I'll just come out and say, I don't really like either half of the game that much, unfortunately. Yeah. I think that going around and collecting stuff from the rondelle it's very basic. It's not terribly interesting. It is nice when someone's cat is ahead of yours and you can maybe jump a space, but also there's that idea of like, oh, I want to be there. So I get that there is some player interaction, but most of it feels kind of incidental or very obvious. You're going for a whole long johns of teal, and everyone's like, well, you're just not going to get that teal.
Never teal again. But that's like very minimal interaction, and I'm fine with multiplayer solitaire games. So this one I'm absolutely fine with. I thought it was fun. And so the whole like interaction there on the board, that's very minor to me. And even if you took all the teals, there's other ways to get teals with the little Paw Paw tokens, and then every single thing that you make towards the bottom has a plus token tile, so you can just get a piece of yarn of whatever color you want. So
yeah, and that's the thing is I feel like the game for me doesn't have enough of like the peaks and the valleys of tension and excitement. And I know that's probably not what this game is going for. So is it harsh of me to judge a game for something that it's not trying to be? I think this is trying to be more of a relaxing game.
The cat is literally sleeping on the cover.
The cozy. Cozy is the genre.
And I think that's the thing is like the Calico, whatever, extended universe that we were joking about earlier. This is not like Calico much at all, other than there's patterns and you're making some craft, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's cute cats. That's about it.
For some people, Calico has way too much tension, and I like the game, but I agree. It really ramps up, tightness at the end. This one, for me, just kind of felt very flatline across the whole way, and I think that some people will genuinely like that. You like the theme, you like the cool presentation, and this is going to fit with a lot of audiences. For me, it was just too flatline across the whole time of the game, and I thought by the 6th round, I was like, yeah, I'm good with this being done.
What score would you give it?
I'm giving this one a 5. I don't think it has enough interest. In theory, I like that idea of the two sides of the tiles and having to go down and build up certain patterns, but also then some of the buttons that you collect and are working towards each round. There's multiple feel bad moments where you complete a mitten and you score like a few points from it, and you get rid of a button and you draw something and you go, oh, I just completed. And all of the same pattern, or I just completed stripes
multiple times. Yeah.
Multiple times, and it just kind of feels a little bad. So it doesn't ramp up in excitement, or it doesn't have a high enough peak of excitement, and then it has a few of those feel bad moments. It's not a terrible game, just not one I want to come back to, and what I see a lot of other people would have fun looking for a cozy game. But for me personally, it's a 5.
Yeah, this one for me is a 7. I enjoyed it. I think it was fun. I would come back to this, and I would recommend playing it with someone that wants to have that very chill pattern building experience. This is not something that you're going to tooth and nail try to win this game, but you're going to have fun at knitting and enjoying each other's company. So for me, this one is a 7. I thought it was fun. I think that all the mechanics work together, and I think that they weren't overly complex. So it's relatively easy to teach, but there's also a real game there, and there's real decisions.
Well, there you go. So a high score of a 7 is going to be giving Knitting Circle seal of approval from us here at the Dice Tower. Thanks for coming out to this review. My name's Chris Yi.
I'm Wendy Yi.
And go be a Calico. Look at him. Look at how he lives his life.
Comfy.
You too could do that for 35 cents a day.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.